Hello and welcome to today's webinar introducing Mobile Hub. Before we begin, I would like to walk the audience through a few items. On your screen, you can see a Q&A pod. Please submit your questions at any time to our presenter and Q&A moderator. We're going to address them throughout the presentation as well as in the live Q&A session in the end. At the conclusion of today's presentation, there will be 3 poll questions proceeding live Q&A. And again, today's webinar is being recorded. We will send you a follow-up email in the next few days with a link to the URL of the recording as well as the presentation deck. And again, welcome to today's webinar introducing Mobile Hub. Our presenter is John Burry, Principal Solutions Architect at AWS. John began his 20-year career in application development as a development lead and a group program manager at Microsoft, then worked in the mobile space for 12 years in the roles of Chief Application Architect, CEO and President of mobile app development companies that ship household name games and apps. Today, John leverages his experience as a Principal Solutions Architect at AWS, focusing on mobile, IoT, and gaming architectures. Today with us, we also have Steve Johnson. Steve is the Solutions Architect at AWS. Today, Steve will engage with you and answer questions throughout his presentation while John presents. Now, John, welcome. I pass the floor to you.
Thank you, Bowen, and hello, everybody, and welcome to the Introducing Mobile Hub webinar. And we're going to be talking about how the Mobile Hub can help you build, test, and monitor your mobile apps at rapid speed and with an incredible amount of ease compared to what we had before. So I'm excited to be here today and walk through this session. And to discuss what we're to expect from this session, first we're going to talk about the Mobile Hub background, why we as a group decided to build this and what value it brings to the table. Then we're going to walk through feature by feature what the Hub does, and then I'm going to give a demo. And I promise not to take too long on slides and dive right into the demo, working with the Hub and working with the product of the Hub as well. So to begin with, at AWS, we've been working with applications, companies who have been building mobile applications for a number of years now. And we're very proud of the applications that are hosted using AWS services. And as you can see here, there are a significant number of household name applications and applications we all know and love, whether it's games or whether it's messaging applications or whether it's applications for photos. As you can see, Twitch and Periscope and Supercell and Sega and so forth. But what you're also not seeing here are the enterprise applications that are hosted in AWS as well. So the engagement with our customers has given us a lot of information about what is necessary in the mobile services and what we should be doing and where we should be going. And one of the things that we heard from this engagement is that mobile isn't defined by just, first of all, a mobile phone. As we have used mobile applications for many years, we initially think of mobile on a phone, but we have many different profiles now that are considered mobile. We all know that now we have TV devices where mobile apps can run on them, whether that's the new application-enabled Apple TV coming out or the Fire TV and many other devices, and of course the various watches that run mobile apps. And now many of our cars are running apps as well, and the connected cars that will become more and more ubiquitous. All of these different profiles give us an opportunity to run mobile apps and develop for, and the entire number of projects that we will be working on is increasing exponentially. And the apps are getting much more complex as well. From basic client apps that we knew, such as the simple calculator app that we know, and applications that could easily have been built on a web app and were in fact for initial releases of OSs, to more sophisticated applications now that we have and that are very similar to desktop applications that we've known for many years. And the complexity of the apps has required more complex backends and more complex infrastructure. So with AWS, we've been part of that, servicing those backends. And so one of the important aspects that we did is we actually began with push notifications as our very first mobile service, SNS, mobile push. Then we started adding other mobile services as well, and addressing this very specific features that cloud-connected apps use here. As you can see, sign-in, social sign-up, custom backends, and cloud storage, analytics, configuration management, and so forth. So as we started adding the mobile services and supplying these services, we also heard feedback from our customers that there's still a level of complexity in using them. Specifically, having to go into the console for each different service and wire up all the specifics of those services. In some cases, there were a lot of repetitive patterns that weren't necessary to do, or at least we figured out we can make that process easier. So an example of this is, let's say we just want to have Cognito for user identity. So in order to implement this into an application, you would use the Cognito SDK, or in this case, the AWS Mobile SDK with Cognito. Then you'd also bring in the identity provider SDKs if you're going to connect, for example, Cognito to Facebook or Cognito to Twitter login or what have you. Then you would have the login screen and integration code, and any SDKs as well that you'd like for building that out as well. All of these put together are necessary to build one login feature. And what we found actually from a teardown of the top 1,000 apps is that in general, the number of SDKs that are used on average is about 11. And in some cases, some applications have 30 or 40 SDKs that are necessary to get basic operations done. So there has to be a better way. And again, we took a look at how we could simplify our services and simplify the process overall of building a mobile application. And we'd like to introduce the Mobile Hub, which is currently in beta, and that's exactly what we're going to be talking about. So the first off, we wanted to have a solution that builds apps on AWS in minutes, not a significant amount of time to wire everything up. And so one of our key goals here was that from launching the console, setting up the services and features that you would like, to actually having an application running in your environment that's in your emulator, we wanted that to be 10 minutes. We actually brought that down, in my opinion, down to just a few minutes as well, depending upon the features that you want and the services that you wire up. So the Mobile Hub beta, the initial screen, looks like this. And on the left-hand side, you can see the initial modes of the Mobile Hub, which I'm actually going to be walking through one by one in the demo. But a little bit more before I do this about the Mobile Hub and the reason for building it out is that what we found out as well with the mobile services is that the patterns and repetitive patterns that are necessary introduce risk sometimes, because there are best practices and security best practices specifically that we could actually incorporate into a model that would give you code that wires up your services for you with these best practices in place. So by helping you with the Mobile Hub connect all the services, providing code as well as an output of that process with best practices built in, we are reducing the development risk and reducing the time it takes to initiate a development project. So let's go through specifically what features the Mobile Hub wires up for you. First of all, user sign-in, powered by Amazon Cognito, and I'm going to go through each one of these in depth, so I'm going to quickly go through all these 6 features, and then one by one on the next slides go through them. Push notifications, powered by Amazon SNS. App content delivery, powered by S3 and CloudFront. User data storage, powered by Amazon Cognito and S3. App analytics, of course, powered by Amazon Mobile Analytics, and Cloud Logic, powered by Amazon AWS Lambda. So first of all, user sign-in. What we've brought to the table here is the ability to wire up Cognito and specifically connect to Facebook, Google, Twitter, other sign-in providers by filling out some simple forms. And the steps to wire Cognito up that currently exist and still do exist side by side with Mobile Hub are brought down to just a few key operations. to wire this up. An example of this is you can define no sign-in, optional, and mandatory sign-in. And what ends up happening when Mobile Hub actually builds a project for you, which I'll show you in a moment, is it actually creates a sign-on screen for you. When before Mobile Hub, you'd have to do that yourself. You'd either copy code from the net or write it out by hand. But we give you a quick start. We give you the forms to connect up to the authentication services. Push notifications as well. If you add this feature, you have the ability to connect Amazon SNS up, giving you iOS or Android push notifications and messages using the pub sub service with one-to-one topic-based subscriptions. And then you also get a quick start app that demonstrates these features within enabling disabled notifications, auto-registering push tokens on SNS, and also letting you select topic subscriptions. So the code to work with SNS, at least a model of that code, is provided for you. App content delivery. The ability to store assets in the cloud, we all have done that many times, but the code to actually engage with the backend to do that, whether through a CDN or not, or using a CDN optionally, all of that's also connected up for you with Mobile Hub. The ability as well to pin specific files to the cache, and the code that does that in your mobile app is provided. And then user data storage. Being able to store user files such as photos and so forth, and key value pairs, whether that's putting data into Amazon S3, or key value profile data, for example, into Amazon Cognito Sync. We also provide the code for that. App analytics as well, using mobile analytics, being able to track your sessions and also have custom events inside your app and a model for how that's done. Finally, cloud logic. Using Amazon or AWS Lambda, being able to connect with backend functions running in the cloud, whether written in Java, JavaScript, or Python. What's beautiful about this is actually that the infrastructure is all managed for you. You don't have to consider powering up servers or consider the managing an OS or the security of that OS. You just provide code, that code executes and returns results and engages. So I've been mentioning the Mobile Hub, after you've connected the features that you would like, will provide with you a starter application. And this is actually the most important part, we believe, of the Mobile Hub, because certainly through the console you can go through the steps. This isn't just a shortcut to the console. It goes further in the fact that it then provides you a dynamic application that isn't a static file that we've hosted on a download site and has remained static for years. It is in real time being built based upon the features you chose. And more importantly, it's connected up to the endpoints that are specific to you, to the particular identification of, for example, like Cognito Identity Pool that is specific to you, the AWS credentials that are specific to you. This is your application and no one else's application in terms of how it connects to AWS's services. And the effort to do that yourself, to copy and paste from the console those credentials, to copy and paste those endpoints, is gone, because that is now automatically in a project that you can open up in iOS or you can open up in Android and have this automatically have this head start automatically ready for you to continue. Device Farm is also connected up to the Mobile Hub so that when your application is being built out, you can quickly deploy that application to actual physical devices through our Device Farm service, which we recently launched, and actually test that application across many different devices and many different profiles of devices. With mobile analytics, as you'll see in a moment, the monitoring and analytics that are part of the default mobile analytics implementation are automatically part of your application, and then also a model for how to put custom events into your application and record those, track those, and output those to other services such as S3 or Redshift. So let me jump into the demo now and go ahead and select my desktop here and share this. Okay. So at this point, I believe you should be seeing the Amazon Web Services console. And what's fun about this is that Mobile Hub was launched at reInvent, our conference in Las Vegas a few weeks ago. And during reInvent, in the middle of our session, we were discussing Mobile Hub. The console was updated and Mobile Hub appeared. I'm going to zoom in on my screen, and ideally you can see as I'm zooming in what I'm zooming in on. And over here in the mobile services section of the console, you can see Mobile Hub is at the top. Cognito, Device Farm, Mobile Analytics, and SNS are below it. And so to access Mobile Hub, you would click here and pop into the initial screen. And what you'll see is a set of applications that you've created, or you'll see a reference to the options of Mobile Hub: configure, build, test, analytics, and resources. If you don't have any applications yet, and the ability to create a new mobile project is available to you. In this case, I have 3 different mobile projects that I've already created. But as I talk through this webinar, I'm going to go ahead and create a new mobile project and step through the features of Mobile Hub. So first, I chose create a new mobile project, and of course, the hardest part of every developer's job is naming things, and that's, of course, the joke we all love. So I'm going to figure out a name for this, and I'm going to be very clever and call it John's Project. And I'm going to create the project. And so the features that are available for me now are presented in these boxes, and here are the 6 features we just talked about. On the right-hand side, however, I want to call out the panel that helps you by giving you more information about where you are and what your options are. On this main screen, it's giving me an overview that my project's been created and that I should be selecting features, but it also gives me a little bit of detail on the pricing. There's no charge to use Mobile Hub. It is a service that is entirely free to use it. And then what the next steps are that I should follow. If I don't want to use this panel, I can hide it, but I'm going to leave it open because as I move through the different screens here, I'll be able to show you how the panel is context sensitive. On the left-hand side, again, the different modes: configure, which I'm in right now, I'll walk through; build, which I will be using after I configure my features; test, which if you notice on the top of test, you'll see the pop-out icon. This will take me to Device Farm. Same with analytics. It'll pop out to another tab, another window, taking me to mobile analytics. And then resources, which I'll show this in a little bit because it depends upon the demo steps I'm going to do before resources to showcase how this works. It's very, very handy. So let's go ahead and I'm going to build an application, and based upon the features of this application, I will select user sign-in. This is what I want, and here's the initial steps I have. And the goal was to make this very, very simple. Not because we're trying to make it so that you don't have to think about your development. Most importantly, we want to make it so that you don't have to spend time on the features that aren't the critical features of your application. So an example of this is user sign-on. It's a very important feature when your application needs it, but it is a repetitive pattern that ideally you follow the same pattern over and over again, and ideally you don't have to waste time on it. So in this case, my pattern is, am I going to build an app that has no sign-in, the sign-in is optional, or the sign-in is required? And based upon my options, I can then say, am I going to use Facebook sign-in, or am I going to use Twitter, Google, or Amazon, which are all coming soon. Within a very short period of time, these should all light up, as well as custom, where I'm going to have a custom authentication service that I can use and connect that with what's called developer authentication. In this demo, I'm going to use Facebook. And I can type in a Facebook ID, and at the moment, I'm going to type in something that isn't real, just to put a placeholder in there at the moment. And the value of this now is when I click Save Changes, I have now connected up Cognito in my application automatically, and I'll show this again. And again, just to before I go forward, to repeat a little bit of what I've been saying, the value here is not in making the application development mindless or taking away the work from you. It is in making it so that what you spend your time on in mobile application is the most important thing. At AWS, we refer to that we take care of the undifferentiated heavy lifting, and the key point of undifferentiated here is your application, if it is just a sign-on application and you put it into the app stores and all it does is sign in to something, that's not a differentiator. I don't think anyone has ever been very, very successful on an application that only signs into something. You sign in as a means to an end, to get to the end, to get to the actual value that your app provides that is unique. So if we can help you so you don't have to spend very much time on the undifferentiated features that every other app has and every other app does the same way, if we could help you so that you spend your time focusing on what makes your app awesome, what makes your app unique, and the killer features that you want to. That's what we're doing with Mobile Hub, is trying to save you that time. And then again, also introduce best practices automatically for you. So let's move on. I'm going to go back to configure. I have multiple ways to get back here through the configure on the left-hand side or John's project up here. And then I'm going to go ahead now and add some push notifications to my application. And this is very, very simple. If I enable push, then I choose the platform that I want to use, Android, iOS, production, or iOS dev. At this point, I would upload my P12 certificate, my certificate password if I have that, and upload it at this time and save it. I'm going to go ahead and move on and not do this in this demo. But that's what it takes. And at this point, what would happen now is the SNS service has been set up for you. Your certificate has been connected up with it, and the sample application will showcase that. Let's go into app content delivery. I can choose whether or not I want to store files from my application in the cloud, in both directions actually. In this case, if I want to store files in the cloud that get downloaded to my application, and this is a very important pattern, a very important model, because a lot of mobile applications, you want it to be dynamic so that it can be updated and resources in the cloud can refresh it, whether you're going to update levels in the game, whether you're going to add new themes to your app, what have you. So you have the option of choosing one single location or a global CDN, and it's that simple. And again, the code that's generated will showcase how to leverage this. I'm going to choose global CDN and click Save Changes. And go back to configure more features. User data storage. So this allows you to take data from your device and put it up in the cloud. If I select this, then the sample application will showcase to me how this works. And it's very simple. This is probably the very simplest one. And I'm going to say, yes, I'd like to store user data, and I'm going to save changes. Going back another way to get here, app analytics, also very simple. I want to add analytics and save changes. I'm going to configure more features. And let's go ahead and add Cloud Logic as well. Enable Cloud Logic. And now what ends up happening here is a list of Lambda functions that I already have for my account are provided for me. As you can see in my sample account here, I have a handful of ones. And then we actually give you a starter hello world Lambda function as well, that if you don't have any Lambda functions, you can at least select this one and it'll be part of the application. So I'm going to save changes and configure more features, and that's it for the 6 right now. The next step is I would build my app, choosing the platform and continue. But I'm going to pause here for a second and come back, because what I want to do is showcase some of the other features. Then I'm going to build my app, and then I'm going to pop into, in this case I'm on my Mac, and I'm going to go ahead and use Xcode in a second to showcase that. So we'll come back to build. Before I do, I'm going to click Test. And what's valuable about this is I actually pop directly into the device farm, and I can go ahead and upload my application that I've built. in this case, when I, again, have gone back, build it down on my application, it's downloaded to my desktop, and I can upload it and run it. And if you notice, John's test project has already been created for me with the Mobile Hub integration. I'm switching back over, and same with analytics. I'm going to pop out to another tab here. I'm going to go into the Mobile Analytics console, and John's project, Mobile Hub, is automatically selected, and I'm now in the dashboard for my project. I can go through all the different tabs with Mobile Analytics, and specifically the reason why I did that is I want to get to the Custom Events tab, because I'm going to come back and talk a little bit about this and the importance of this in applications. And then finally, I teased resources before, but I didn't talk much about it. But let me show you what resources is now that I have selected my features. Resources is the backend that is giving me the endpoints and the specific identities, the Amazon Cognito identity, the Amazon S3 buckets, CloudFront distributions, and so forth. All of this is the data that backends what I have selected in my features here. Very useful. So let's go into build now. I'm going to go ahead and select iOS, as I mentioned before. And so right now, in the background, the iOS package is being dynamically generated for me. In the meantime, I have some information here that I can use. I have details on Facebook sign-in and what's happening. I actually went through integrated development, which basically says for my iOS source code, if I want to run it, I need to have Xcode 7.0 or newer. If I don't, here's how I can get Xcode. This shows me when I have the application downloaded. I'm just going to go ahead and click download, and it comes down that easily. When I have the application downloaded, this is the next steps that I would take. And then this talks you through, as you run the app, what the different features are doing in the demo app, which you'll see in a second, how they're working. And so it's giving you context behind just what you're seeing in the demo. Under Discover, this is really exciting, because what this allows you to do is know exactly where in the application the specific code is that you can copy and paste into another application you may have already built. Or if you don't want to use a sample application in any way, shape, or form as a base application to build off of, you can go ahead and just move this code into the other application that you've either started with a file new, or as I just said, already exists and you can copy and paste. So this walks you through step by step where the code is that you would copy. And this down here basically is what I was talking about, where we would provide the application that you can use it as a starter application to build from and use the project itself, or an example application where it's just giving you an example of the best practices and you don't actually have to use the application. So the key point here is that, again, the Mobile Hub is not enforcing anything, it's just helping you understand. So this takes you through step by step what the sample application, if you want to use it as a real app, what you should be doing. Renaming the app, of course, setting the bundle ID, and configuring the app services for in-app purchase, push notification, and so forth, and detail on that, links to the detail on that. This shows you what to do with the sample app as an example. And again, where to copy and paste the code from into your new application. And it's giving you the actual code. This is not static code. This is actual dynamic to your implementation, which is quite useful. And then there's a software license, which is giving you a license.txt file, which is telling you that these components from AWS SDK for iOS, components from Cognito Sync, and then also the other SDKs, as I mentioned earlier. All the different SDKs that we are using in our applications now. Mobile Hub helps you with part of this by giving you the ones that you selected. So in this case, Google+, Facebook SDK, and so forth may be available, and all the licenses for these. So there's also a troubleshoot, which basically says your Xcode version should be 7.0. and it doesn't work with earlier versions. If you don't have it, please upgrade because it will error out. So let's get into the good stuff now. So I downloaded the mobile app, and what I have here actually is my sample app and John's project. These are two different apps. I've actually got one running just in the interest of time so we don't have to wait for this to launch. So let me pop on over to what I've opened up. This is the same sample app I just created, and I'm going to show you exactly what Mobile Hub has created for you. I haven't added anything or changed anything in here. The only thing, except one area, which I'll jump right into when I expand the files. Down here in the configuration, Mobile Hub has created a configuration file for me, which automatically fills in the information such as my identity pool ID for Cognito. And I'm going to zoom in. Hopefully you can see better as I do. And you can see I've just removed the actual values from these. So again, Cognito pool ID, Mobile Analytics app ID, the S3 buckets, it automatically created for me and wires up. The CloudFront domain and origin. And then for the user files demo, the S3 bucket name for that. So when you use the Mobile Hub and download, you'll see these values that are specific to you. But to go into the code here a little bit more, what AWS is providing you is code that, again, does the heavy lifting for you. The mobile client code, identity manager code, as an example of what I've created here, and you can actually just see, I'll go through some files quickly. Up here under Amazon AWS, you can see functions to integrate with CloudLogic, with Lambda are provided for you, and the best practices for how to integrate with Lambda, which before Mobile Hub was provided in documentation and web pages that you can copy and paste from, or you could download projects, say from GitHub and other sources. But the beauty of this is automatically, again, the project has your numbers, your S3 buckets, your endpoints, all of the detail. So here's the Cognito sign-in, and you can see the Facebook details here because I selected Facebook. So I encourage you to try Mobile Hub, download your application, either an iOS or Android application, take a look what the code is. I can guarantee you'll get some fresh ideas because the beauty of it is since this is done for you, your brain is focused on the other problems to solve. Let's take a look at the application, which I do have running in the background right now in the simulator. And here's my sample app. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. This is the Mobile Hub itself will actually have different variations of the sample app based upon what you choose. So since I chose these features, I have user sign-in, app content delivery, user data storage, mobile analytics, and CloudLogic. Let's go through these one by one and showcase how the demo application works. So notice when I choose user sign-in, I get a little bit of text giving me an overview of this feature, and down at the bottom, I have a demo user identity link. So let me go ahead and select that. And with Amazon Cognito, you automatically get a guest user identity. In this case, since I haven't signed in yet, I am just a guest user. I am US East 1, 1B7, DD70, et cetera, et cetera. And interfacing now with Cognito on the back end, as I do this, I can be recognized by this ID, but only this ID at this point. There's no other detail about who I am, but at least I'm unique. And that's one of the values that Cognito gives me is that identity ID. But I'm going to sign in. So I chose Facebook, as you remember. So here is Facebook, automatically wired up and available in my app. I'm going to go ahead and select it. Now on Facebook, you have an application on the back end. And I have a Facebook application that I created that's just a sample application called Polled. And I've already logged in with it in the OS, so I just have to say OK, authenticate with Facebook. And notice the screen just changed from orange to green. And the reason that happened is because when I talk about the user data storage, I'm going to talk about profile data that can be stored. And now that I've authenticated myself, the application has brought down my saved profile data that Cognito has saved in the cloud for me. I had a profile that said, I don't like the orange color for my app. I want it to be green. And when I came into the app and signed in as myself, which you can see now, it brought my profile data down and uploaded the app automatically. And the Mobile Hub, again, gives you a model for how to do this, gives you all the code to do this, and actually does it inside the sample app. So let me back up now. So that's user sign-in. Let's talk about app content delivery. Again, some text about this, and let me go down to the demo. And in this demo, we provide a number of PNG files that are available for you, and I can download them from my S3 bucket that's been automatically created for me, specific to me again. So I can choose to either download from S3 this file, and when I do, it's been brought down to my computer. I can choose to open it up and take a look at the file. It's a very sophisticated example image number 3 with a nice gradient, a blue gradient, as you can see. But what's interesting about this is I can also download it and pin it in CloudFront, pin it in the cache. And the star is indicating that this is now pinned. So the code to be able to do that, to manage that, and to pin is all provided for you. Let's go into, actually the app content delivery. There's one more thing I want to showcase on this. When I pick the option at the top right, I can refresh the content, the cache summary. I can download recent, and it brings everything down. And I can also set the cache size as I test this out. And I can see that happening. And all the code to do this from the application provided for you. Or clear the cache. And everything's gone. Okay, so let's go into user data storage. So first off, we'll talk about user file storage. And again, this is taking a file that is on my computer in this case and uploading it to the cloud. Now, this particular file hasn't been downloaded yet, so let me go ahead and say download. So it comes down to my computer, and I can upload it. And download and pin, or let me go ahead and bring a file from my computer and upload it. I'm going to choose a moment. I'm going to choose a nice waterfall. I'm going to name the file nice waterfall. And in the background, the upload is occurring. Again, the code to do this is there for you, so you can copy and paste it into your applications or just build off of this. Very simple. So the other options, I can create folders. And how that's done, and so forth. I can delete the local copy, delete the remote file, and so forth. So you get the idea with that. But let's go into the profile data. I mentioned earlier how I switched from the orange to the green because that was my profile. Because all I did is when I was logged in, I just chose a color. And that became my profile color. And as I leave this application, sign out and sign back in again, it'll be remembered. In this case, let's just go ahead and do it. And now I'm back to the unauthenticated user mode, which I can verify by going back over here to demo user identity. I'm just a guest user again. But once I sign in, I think it was blue I chose last, and we should see my profile come back down from the cloud and be blue. And the beauty of this with Cognito is this works across devices. So I can move to whatever device that I'm using at the moment, log in with my profile data, log in with my Cognito identification, whether it's, again, through Facebook or through a custom one, Twitter, Google, log in with Amazon, and so forth. And my profile data will be brought down. I'm going to go back to green because I actually do like green. And then mobile analytics. The demo here is quite simple. I can create a custom event or generate a monetization event. And so when I create a custom event, this event has been submitted up to mobile analytics, up to the cloud. And the specifics are there's a demo attribute, demo values, there's 2 actually, and the metrics 24341. All of this sent up to the cloud and stored. An example of how this is done is provided. And then we can go into the console and we can see that result. And in a little bit, I'll pop over there and we'll see if it came through. We also provide the code for monetization events. And this is when an in-app purchase is done and how you record that with mobile analytics so that mobile analytics can keep track of those events for you and bounce those events off of the other metrics that it has. Very useful and very important. And then cloud logic. So here we have a function in Lambda. This is that hello world function I showed you earlier. It's one of the simplest function ever. You can provide 3 keys and associated values. I'm going to go ahead and invoke the function. So right now, the code within inside the sample app initiates the Lambda function in the cloud. The function executes and returns a result. In this case, value 1. So the beauty of this is you can wire up any Lambda function you want, use the result in any way you want, and all the code of how that's done is provided for you, specific to your account. So that's the sample application, and it's quite simple to use. And as I mentioned before, that the option of actually building off of it, going in and changing the UI, changing the name and so forth, and just this is your starter app, and beginning from here, or copying and pasting. And to repeat once more in the mobile hub, so I pop on over here, exactly how you copy and paste and where you do so is provided for you here. Identify a user, sign in with provider, record a custom analytics event, record a monetization analytics event, and so forth. It's a little early, but let's pop into the console and see if at this point any analytics data has come back. At this point, make sure I've got the right application. So I've got quite a few different ones. And there we go. And I think this is not the correct one because that's from a previous day. But let me make sure as I pop through here. Not yet. So usually it comes across in minutes. Sometimes it can take up to an hour. So we'll see if that comes back again. Now, a few more things I want to cover about this is when I go into the other services such as Cognito, Device Farm, and so forth, just want to showcase that my application really, in fact, is part of the applications here. You can see John's Mobile Hub project and all the different Mobile Hub tests I've done are all part of this. So that really is the exact same thing as if you went into Cognito yourself, as if you went into the various services yourself and wired them up. They're all there for you. The Mobile Hub is just making your life a lot easier by doing this for you without the heavy lifting of having to go in. Back into Mobile Hub, under each project, I have a shortcut to jump right into configure, jump right into build, test, analytics, and resources, and so forth. Quite simple. I'm going to go back to my project here. And at any given point, you can change what you've set. But I want to give a little bit of a warning here that you could decouple the logic in your code from the services that you've set up with Mobile Hub. An example of this is if I actually go back over to Xcode here and I have connected up various, for example, with content delivery, I have S3 buckets associated with it. With sign-in, I have Cognito associated with it. This should be common sense, but I just do want to make sure it's clear that as I turn off and on features or as I change settings here, I could get out of sync with the state of my application in my sample app. Even worse, if I've created the sample app and built off of it, and then I come back in here and start changing things, I again could get out of sync in a way that I've lost a lot of work and I have to rebuild that app, because the best practice is when you've configured the Mobile Hub, every time you make a change, you should do a new build. And that build is going to be an entirely new application downloaded for you with those changes, with reflecting the current state of your settings, but it's going to be out of sync with the modifications you made to the sample app. So I just encourage you, when you're using the Mobile Hub, is to think through the features you want, and in some cases, use more features or turn on more features than you may think you need initially. And you can easily back that out of your code. And that way it simplifies your life if you make changes. Likewise, when you go into the console and you start making changes, actually you pop on over to, I'm going to pop up here, and go here. And of course, this is just a best practice with AWS overall, but because with Mobile Hub we have a dynamically generated project for you, I just like to repeat this common sense thing that as you pop through and change, go into S3 and delete a bucket, for example, or go into Cognito or Mobile Analytics and change the application details. The same as what I just mentioned with Mobile Hub changes, you could break the downloadable package by changing things. So just understand that this is, in fact, truly wired up and reliant on the resources that you selected to be static, or at least understand the implications of the changes you're making. Okay, so a few more things that I want to show, and then we'll go into questions, Q&A. With Mobile Hub, we are rapidly expanding its capabilities. So if you remember under user sign-in, Amazon, Google, Twitter sign-in is not available yet. In Cognito, you can go into these yourself manually and connect up Amazon and Cognito, connect up Google and Twitter. So this is not a Cognito disconnect. It's just that Mobile Hub development is continuing. We released it very quickly and are constantly updating it. And like I mentioned at reInvent, it came online and was available for the first time while we were giving the session talking about it. So in the weeks ahead, you should see these come online, as well as more Mobile Hub features. The team is incredibly prolific, and the additional features the features I'm talking about today will be added to, and so you'll see on the blog posts and on the announcements Mobile Hub's continued evolution, and I'm excited to see what's going to be coming. So with that, let's go into questions. I'm going to go ahead and turn off my screen share at the moment. Okay, so Lance asked, does this support Swift 2.1 for iOS? And the answer is not at the moment, Lance. That is potentially an example of the feature that I was talking about, or a coming feature. I can't promise that. I'm not on the team, and they are prioritizing features based upon feedback. So I'm expecting that that is something you're asking for, and we've received that request quite a bit. So, but that is an example of a possible potential feature, but at the moment it does not. So Greg Johnson asked, is beta available to anyone now? And the answer is yes. The beta is available to every user, AWS user. But again, we are calling it beta at the moment because of its rapid development and additional features that we're coming out with. Lance has asked, is this just for development testing or can be for actual production once I decide to go live? It is for production. Of course, you initially start with development and testing and so forth, but the intent was that the code that we provided is production quality code. It does follow the best practices that the team follows itself for our own applications. And then as solutions architects, as we are working with various companies that are building out the applications, such as you saw on the logo slide earlier on in the presentation, those best practices have been incorporated into the Mobile Hub. Is there a unified Mobile Hub pricing? Francesco's asking. The Mobile Hub itself is free. The price for each mobile service and the various pricing models for each service still exist and are the same and are not changed because of the Mobile Hub. So there isn't a unified hub pricing for this. Kwan's asked, will more features be added after the beta stage? Absolutely, Kwan. Not just in Mobile Hub, not just in mobile services, but AWS services overall has a very rapid and dramatic evolution of features, and it's exciting to see how, again, prolific the teams are. The answer is absolutely. Mark is asking, is there a usage limit that we can use for free, or does all this require to be paid for before starting? The Mobile Hub, again, is free. However, the different mobile services do have various free tiers or free usage as well. So, for example, in Mobile Analytics, I believe you get 100 million events for free, and then $1 per million after that per month. So there's different free tiers for various resources if you go into the pricing pages on them for those services, and you'll see. Let's see. Brad's asking if you export your code, do you get Java code for Android and Swift for iOS or something else? So Brad, again, I mentioned you don't get Swift for iOS at the moment. It is Objective-C, and for Android, yes. So Christian's asking how can you test and verify before you build, and the device farm is a good tool for that. Certainly, the application that you download to your local computer can be tested on any local device that you want to build on, whether in the simulator or by connecting a device and sideloading the application to that device, or again, device farm, which allows you to profile and test on a significant number of different devices and quantity of devices at the same time. Let's see. Can the mobile hub, Fink is asking, can the mobile hub support web clients? As the login sign-up flows are the same with the web. You could certainly copy and paste code examples, but it's not really code that would run in a web environment. So no, the answer is no, the short answer. But I was going to say it's a model. It's a good model that you could use for web clients to understand logically, but the code itself can't be directly applied. And it doesn't currently build a web client. Eric's asking, can you upload an existing iOS app you've already developed and have it set up appropriately? That's not a feature for Mobile Hub. It'd be interesting if that, again, in terms of prioritization, if that is a feature that comes out in the future, I don't know at all, but that would be an interesting approach, but it is not currently how it works. It does work with downloading the sample app, and then you would move code from that sample app into your other app. Sean is asking, why did John use the AWS Facebook SDK rather than the SDK provided by Facebook? Are there benefits? And to be clear, actually, the AWS Facebook SDK is using uses code from Facebook, as you can see in the licensing as well. So I use the AWS Mobile SDK as well as you can download code from Facebook as well. Mani is asking, how do we store data for things like posts, comments, likes? Is there a hook to Dynamo? And so the answer here is you definitely could store the code in Dynamo. What you do get with the Mobile Hub is the connector for Dynamo as part of the code that is embedded into the sample app, and you can actually use that to connect to Dynamo. Steve's asking, are you planning to show how testing of the sample app works in device? I'm not at the moment. There are other presentations online, and I would encourage for this specific question and then others to take a look at the webinars that are available on YouTube and also the other YouTube sessions from reInvent, where Device Farm in specific and Mobile Hub and Device Farm are showcased, using them together. There is again, a very easy to find session on YouTube where AWS, reInvent, and then mobile development. I would look for that, and you'll find that quite easily. Matthew's asking if you want to integrate with other web services, would you do that from the app itself? Or by calling a LAMP service, which would then make the service call? That's a great question, Matthew. The answer is both, and you could definitely do both. We encourage mobile development to initially look at calling Lambda first to integrate with, certainly with compute services. One of the things, just to talk a little bit about the mobile application development architectures, is mobile application, the rate of adoption is sometimes difficult to anticipate, especially with consumer applications. With enterprise applications, you typically know how many users you're going to have. But with consumer applications, you may release an app into the App Store and have a very dynamic experience. In some cases, discovery is an issue your app isn't seen. But in other cases, your app gets highlighted. Google Play, Apple will promote it, and your app will take off and get to levels you never anticipated. And so for that, we actually encourage the use of Lambda to integrate with the other services because of the automatic infrastructure management that Lambda provides, the scale that it gives you out of the box without you having to think about it, and the low cost associated with that. Because if no one is using your app, you're not paying for an EC2 instance to burn all night long and all day long. Lambda, you only pay when it fires off. It's only a charge when it fires off. And so your shipping of an app with minimal users is very inexpensive with Lambda because there's absolutely very little activity, and then it then automatically will accommodate a fire hose of activity as well. Continuing looking through questions here. Dale has asked, can you use Device Farm to test apps that don't integrate with AWS services? And the answer is absolutely. You can test any app you would like in Device Farm once you upload it. It does not have to integrate with AWS services. So I'm continuing to look at questions here. Christian's asking, are you able to show us how to go directly into the code that AWS created and show us how to alter and edit that code, or can you? And Christian, in the interest of time, I didn't. However, I did point out where that is documented in the Mobile Hub. And if you after you select Build, the specific detail, the specific line numbers, the specific locations of where to go and alter and edit that code is provided for you. Lance is asking, will there be additional training sessions for absolute beginners to AWS? Strictly an iOS developer, oblivious to the back end. And so Lance, there are continuing webinars, and again, I would recommend the content that is available online, both the written content on AWS, but also one of the places that I strongly encourage people to go to is the YouTube videos, where whether it's solutions architects like Steve and myself and engineers who are building the services, there's various levels of sessions, from absolute beginners to very advanced and sophisticated sessions. And you can very quickly come up to speed with those videos. Okay, so we're going to do one last question. And Isaac's asking, are there any plans to add DynamoDB integration? And as I mentioned earlier, the Dynamo functionality is part of the SDK that's provided for you. And so that detail with Dynamo, it's actually quite easy to do. The application itself, the demo app that you saw, will certainly evolve, and features will be added to it. A significant number of features I expect to be added to it is what I can say. But again, if Dynamo is something you're interested in, the code has been brought down and packaged up into your app in the SDK to interface with it. And that's the last question. I really thank everyone for attending this webinar. And I encourage you to play with Mobile Hub and start your sample applications and build the next great mobile app. Thank you very much.